when I have it at a show and it's on a low table, everyone everyone instinctively comes down
Just
to it
crouches
because
down
like
to
you
it.
know
Yeah.
that I want to see the moon, like I want to see the shot. And um yeah, I love that that's how people have interfaced with it. And like that's what I wanted out of it, and that's what everyone else gets out of it.
Welcome to Newtype Notebook, a podcast celebrating the work of incredible builders across the gunpla and modeling community. I'm Ricky. You can find me on Instagram at Ricky_glues. Today, I'm really excited to explore a project that takes on a bit of a different approach compared to our usual gunpla and 5-star stories builds. I want to know, how does model building change when you're looking at a vehicle or a prop that exists in real life? Does authenticity to the real thing matter at all costs? What is the intersection between nostalgia, accuracy, and creativity? I'm excited to explore these questions and more with Dwayne Ayer as we take a deep dive into his 125 scale AMT Batwing from the 1989 Batman film. He's a super thoughtful and meticulous builder, and I'm excited for us to take a deep dive with him as he makes this icon of the silver screen come to life. We go through the process of studying reference photos of the actual prop, the modifications and lighting he needed to make the kit more true to life, the incredible attention to detail when painting and weathering, and finally presenting it in a way that matches the most iconic scene from the film. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy. Really making waves, man. Yeah, like people love your builds. So, and then right after ODO, like just a bunch more interest kind of popped up again. So it's good timing.
Yeah, no, it's I'm like like I consider myself a Gunpla builder, but for like the last year, it's like I'm gonna go do this sci-fi kit. I'm gonna go do, so like I've been on a year hiatus, but every one of these has been like a 10-week build, and then when I'm done, I'm like, I don't know where this came from, and people have loved it. So it's really kind of awesome. It's nice to finally like get going
Yeah,
with people,
it's
you know.
funny because like I don't even think I know you as a gunpla builder because I don't think I was really following you until I saw the Batwing. So in my head, I'm like, oh, you do a lot of like sci-fi pop culture stuff, but I'm like, do you do Gundams? I haven't like dug back that
No,
deep.
I don't. So like I don't. I straight build all my Gundams.
Okay.
But that's what got me back into the hobby was Gundams. Well, it was Evangelion and then Gundams because I don't have any history with Gundam. Um, and then I built like a master grade, and that was like my first painted kit, which is just for me, it's
Hmm.
it's awful, but it taught me all the bits and pieces of that. And then yeah, over the last year, it's like last year I did Ed 209 and RoboCop,
Yeah.
um, and those did okay. I've done another Batman from the Robert Pattinson Batman, a little Dio. But then yeah, the Batwing and then this. And it's like I really want to make a good Gundam, but like these other kits keep getting in the way, and I don't mind at all. It's great.
No, I love it. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't have a better way to say this, but a lot of like the inspiration for doing those kits is like I'll look at it and be like, oh man, this looks really good. Like I really want to like get into this and like really bring in all these details. And I keep seeing other people build the kit and they're like, well, I built this kit, but I made the engine gold. And like autism in the back of my brain is like, that's not right. That's not right. And so I'm like, I'm gonna make it look like the thing.
Uh-huh.
And then yeah, and then I just get in my own head and I rabbit hole and then product. So
Because like you do
yeah.
you do try to shoot for like accuracy in terms of like screen
Yes.
accuracy and all those kinds of things, which I really love. I
It's
mean,
it's
yeah.
like it's like vibes accuracy. Because the thing is that like the Batwing's the best example of that. Is that like if you said, oh, make the Batwing, it's black. Like all these like little like well, we'll get into that, but like
Hmm.
yeah, like and both that and the Pattinson Batmobile, that was the first one where like I wanted to make a black thing, and it became like the modeler's adage of like you can't make a black thing black. You have to like start playing with that. And that was my first one where it's painted, and you can't tell now that I've like weathered it, but it's like seven different types of black. Where it's like I'll try NATO black and I'll try graphite black and I wanted to get as close to black as possible. And and then I brought it to the first show and I was done with it. And I hadn't done anything to like really bring out the contrast because it was just like I took photos of it and it's under like, your hobby light, which is
Hmm.
somewhere around like zero point 0.3 sun. Um, and I take it to the model show and it just looked flat black. And I'm like, oh, there's all the detail, like there's variation. It's too subtle. And so like that was a really good exercise. And like you have to really separate.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I okay. So I primarily build gunpla these days, and so I think actually the rule that you can't make black black to me and the way that I paint, I don't think is like a rule. But if you're talking about something that's all black, like a Batmobile or a Batwing or something, then maybe there's definitely more truth to it. But for me, like I don't know if that rule always applies with gunpla because there's already enough like part separation and color separation
Yeah.
where
100%.
and like
100%.
you're letting the light do the work for you in terms of like
Right.
the reflectiveness and the texture and all that kind of stuff. Whereas like, but
Well, and
yeah.
and there's not really a lot of black suits. Like, and when you
Hmm.
ever see somebody do a black suit, there was somebody at Odeo last year that did this black. Um, I couldn't tell what it was, but I think it was like a new, but it had this like stealth sort of like thing to it. But she did it with this like purple, it was like an iridescent with like flat gray, and like even in that, like you can always play in that space. Once you start going down that route,
Hmm.
you want to reserve obviously always some of that black for like the shaded thing or the infinite like space that you don't want the light to get into. And actually on Optimus there's a space in there in the smokestacks because I couldn't drill them in enough, and so I was just like,
Hmm. Hmm.
make that as black as I can get.
Hmm. Because then you're supposed to
Uh,
be imitating a hole or something, right? So yeah,
yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly. And if it's there, your eye just goes, oh, that's like,
Hmm.
I don't have to look in there,
Hmm. Hmm.
kind of a
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
especially when you're this close to it, or
Hmm.
whatever.
This is great. We're gonna nerd out today. This is gonna be awesome. Are you in film production or something? So it does click that because so much of your like more recent subject work is like film characters and props and things. So like you have some film background.
So the background is just that like the 80s, like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I grew up outside of New York, and there was Channel 11 WPIX every Saturday had a matinee movie, and so we were children of the TV, and so we had movies that were a lot scarier later. Like we had a huge library, like when we were way too young to watch Critters or whatever. Like I grew up on that stuff, edited for TV with all of the weird like janky verbal edits or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
half an hour missing or whatever. Um, yeah, so that's my background, and like so it obviously infects this half of my life with the hobby.
Yeah. Do
In
you
that way.
have
Yeah.
like a favorite set of films that you always go back to or that you wish you could build a model for? Or...
Yeah, so Aliens and Predator are a huge franchise for me and my brother. And I have a Halcyon Predator. Like nobody's made a good Predator kit in a long time.
Hmm.
And the last one they made here was from the 90s. He's literally sitting right behind Prime, like the best and the worst. Um, and it's this old janky uh, Halcyon Predator 2 Predator. And this is
Okay.
as far as he's gotten. I have like all the dreads and stuff, but like there was like a half-inch gap here when I got him, and
Mm.
it just turned into this like, when they made those kits, they made them for like tube cement where everything would just melt, and
Mm-hmm.
so when you're using it with extra thin old, there's just holes everywhere. Um, and so like those are fun, but that one sort of tested my patience, and I want to go back and paint it, but figure painting scares me to death. So
Yeah, I was just gonna ask
uh,
if you had any figure
there
painting
it sits.
experience.
No, I have a lot of figure show experience, which informed a lot of my builds. It informed a lot of like what I look for.
That's awesome. And so you've been competing for about a year to a year and a half, but Like, how long have you been involved with plastic modeling?
So as a teenager, I think like everybody has in this hobby, it started that way. My brother and our best friend, as kids, we get like it was always sci-fi kits, right? Star Wars kits, Star Trek kits, and we globbed together. We never painted them, and like technically we built them, but like they were never. It was what it was, and sometimes it fell or got thrown or whatever.
Hmm.
In 2020, my brother did two of the hunter killers from Terminator, and that was his COVID project. And so I was like, oh, that'd be fun. I want to connect with him to do that. That would be really cool. And so I started picking up that stuff, and then he went like, and then that I love details. I love like drilling into things, which will be evident. And so I just kept going with it, and he kept pushing me to like, no, you really like you're enjoying this. Like I don't even know how to have these conversations with you, so just keep going. Um, and he cheats like he uses it to his advantage. He started doing action figure photography about a year ago, and he would just feed me figures to customize, which was like between projects, I'll usually do like that. Like he's my only person that does commissions, and my commission is like I want really expensive paint, or I want to try this thing, and you're going to be my reason to do it. And then I do it. I give him the thing and walk away.
That's a nice little
Um,
one-two punch. Yeah, like so you build the kits, and a lot of times he's the one taking the photographs.
yep.
That's a nice partnership because both of those skills are not easy.
No, we offload to each other the thing. He worked for a long time at B&H in New York City, and so he's always done photo and photo equipment. And people in the community are starting to know him because he's like the photo guy. Mean Mug and Coop will just sit there
Hmm.
and oh well, what about this lens? What about this? And he's really
Hmm.
good at knowing those relationships. So like, yeah, I get him to shoot my photos, but I'm always right there like this is what I want and nitpicking and doing all of that brotherly stuff to get what I want out of it,
That's really
which
cool.
I'm sure he loves. Yeah.
Yeah. How would you describe yourself as a builder, or how would somebody look at a piece of work and know that it's yours?
It's funny because like when we start talking about this, I don't like I have a style that I think is like put on me, but I don't feel like I've drilled down to it. But like the things that I've been doing now that I've been really exploring are metallics, playing around with that and like textures. The one way you can tell it's my kit is that I feel pretty allergic to clear coat.
Mm.
So a lot of my stuff is not clear coated. And
Okay.
that's
Okay.
because I have a really tough time of like I want them to be gloss or matte or something in there. Um, but I want like usually I'll spray it and go like, oh, that's exactly what I want. So when you see it in person, you have these different layers of um, uh, specularity and like reflectivity. So your eye just goes, oh, that's a thing, that's a thing. Um, the principle I do when I build the models, which like I think every modeler does, but I don't know, is I want you to be able to look at a piece and say that's the thing, and I want it to exist sort of like from 3 feet away. But I like my mentality is I want it to look great there, but then I want something to invite you to lean in,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like the best way to put that is that like okay, like oh, what is that over there? And then you're looking in. So like for the
Hmm.
Batwing, it's it's got a statement to it, but then like you can look at the missiles or you can look at the cockpit and like you can just get in there. You can see the Batman's in there.
Right. Yeah. That's just a great thing for any, I think, modeler to focus on is that you want it to be interesting from every distance, right? Like, so it's got to catch your eye when
Right.
you're 10 feet away from the table, but it's also got to be worth, taking a magnifying glass to
Right. It
maybe
has
or
to
something like
maintain
that.
that all the way in.
Right.
But also at the same time, you don't like I don't want it to get so caught up in these little details that when you look at it from 10 feet away, uh, you don't know what to look at. It feels too busy. It feels too like distracting or all over the
Right.
place.
Right.
And so it's like I don't know. There's a point in every build where I'm touching it and I'm like, nope. Like, and um, I have to be really, and I have been for these last couple of like things that have gotten feedback. been really good about being like I feel it, I don't ignore that feeling, and I take a step back, and
Mm,
then okay, now I'm going to put it out there, and if people don't respond to it, or like I'll elicit feedback at that point before I keep going, because it feels like that's the point where I'm going to work to get back to. Like anything I
mhm.
do, yeah, I'm going to just correct it back to this point. And so as soon as I feel that kind of like right in my gut, I'm like, okay, stop.
Right, right. Because there is such thing as like you said, too much detail, or maybe you're just so focused
Yes.
on the leaves that you don't step back and look at the trees as a whole.
Yeah.
And I do resonate with what you said about just playing with different textures and different sort of like sort of finishes on different parts of a model. Like I think that's something that
Mhm.
I really try to do with my gunpla. Like I don't want to just spray the entire kit with like Mr. Hobby Flat or whatever because
Right.
I think
Right.
it works for some kits, but or in other circumstances is like having that sort of textural variety on a single kit definitely
Yeah.
helps. So you mentioned some experience uh, with film production work.
Mhm.
Are there any other things that kind of inform your building that we haven't already touched on?
Autism? No, I mean like um ADHD, hyperfocusing. Yeah, that's probably a lot of it, and just getting stuck in my head.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a gift
yeah.
in the right context, right? Being able to
Yes.
really focus on something and pay long periods of attention to it and all that kind of thing, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting when we start getting the nuts and bolts. Like I get really thoughtful about it because each project has successfully worse reference, but I really like reference. Even if it is not of the thing, that reference helps inform like what I'm doing. And but for the Batwing, I had the best reference,
Hmm.
but yeah, but it's a little different because it's a film prop.
I actually have a couple stories about the Batwing that I think I might have shared with you, but I wanted to mention. So this Batwing, and I think this specific model that you worked on is
Hmm.
one of the very first memories I have of a plastic model ever, and I must have been like 3. So my cousin Wesley, when I was like that young, he was probably like in high school or middle school or somewhere in those lines, and he was doing model kits, and I just remember seeing him show me. He like has like a display case in his bedroom, and he took it out and he showed me like it had the claw in the front, and it had like the
Yep.
the missile or gun pod that like pops out, and you can see like the clear canopy and Batman's inside of it. And I was just like
Yep.
so enamored with it, and I had seen the movie I think at that point, and I just like really wanted to touch it, and
You could
rightfully
not.
so. He was like, "No way, you're not touching this, kid." And I just
This is
like,
for looking.
yes. And I got
Yeah.
so I remember getting really distraught and upset about it, and my mom had to like basically just take me home. But like,
So my first real model was the Batmobile from that movie. And when I came back to modeling, the first model I built coming back was what I like to call, but there's different names for it, is the redemption build, which is that like 10-year-old me built this and brush painted enamel paint on it and did my best. Well, adult me is gonna like really go at it.
mm,
And so I did that Batmobile, and probably sometime in the next year, now that like I'm getting going, I'm gonna do it again and do the car model clear coat splash paints.
there you go.
Um, like I'm gonna really like try to like dial it in, and do an automotive like gray Batmobile
Yeah,
just to
that's
like
awesome.
give those tiers of growth. Yeah.
So I'm looking at mine right now too because I that might have also been one of like the third or fourth car kits that I painted was that
Yep.
'89 Michael Keaton Batmobile, and I also remember like just trying my best to find like really good photos of it. Now this is going to be kind of a tangent, but like there are several different of those. There's the Batman
Yes.
one, there's the Batman 2 one. There's a bunch of them that still live that are like
Hmm.
replicas or whatever, and they're all
Hmm.
they're all different in very frustrating ways, right? Like
Yes.
some of them have like all chrome machinery, some of them are gloss black, some of them are flat black. It's like
Yes.
it was really
Yes.
hard. It was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to to seeing you work on that one. And yeah, let's start with reference. So this is something that I don't do much with gunpla, just because, obviously, like, it's a cartoon. It's not gonna give you the same. I mean, there might be certain things that you can pull from the anime or from reference, like magazine pictures and things, but like these are actually like screen props, right? And
Right.
so you've got some great photos in here. Well, this is the actual kit, right?
The box on this, like it tells you all you need to know, but I think that like this this starts sort of the conversation of like where I went and where I've diverged from other builders is that people build to the box, and the box is not accurate at all. It's just somebody's like fantasy build of this, and there's a lot of accuracies to this. Um, in the way that the wings are there, there's the little bit of riveting in the shading through the blades of the wings. And the nose is close on this just to my eye, but for like most builders, uh, this just reads as flat black with like spraying the little panels of white. And so that's the direction everyone runs in.
Mm.
Um, it's a good build for this kit straight out of the box. Um, yeah.
But you're
But
not
like
that kind of
everything
builder.
else, no, when starting, like one of the things that was really helpful to me was actually it was funny. It's like probably like a month before that, my brother and I both shared this with each other kind of the same day. So I picked up that resin kit and I had this on my mind, and we were just sitting there like, wait, that's what it looked like, because like as kids when you watch Batman, Batman exists as like the little circle against the moon, and that's it. So
Mm-hmm.
like I always knew that that's where I wanted to start, but to me it's just like everyone else who looks at the box, like it's a flat black plane. Maybe there's some detail there, but you see Adam Savage walk around this thing, and it's huge. And the first thing I noticed is that like it's not black at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on there. And so yeah, we watched that. We went to Wonderfest. I picked that thing up in about 2 weeks after he got back. My brother picked up the Spin Master, which is like a little toy for his toy photography. It's a little 50. Actually, I have it right here. It's a little $15 thing.
Oh,
Like it's,
fun.
this is all, yeah. And so he said, like we talked earlier, you know, make it better. And so like I painted it. I have a picture of it floating around in there, but like I did some of the shading on that, just matching this. And um, he was trying to figure out how to pay me for that. So I guess we're going to get into the story early. So he's trying to figure out how to pay me for that. And I told him that like, well, I want to get another one of those kits, but I have to tell you that like this is really unsatisfying after watching that video and having these things. So like when I see other people and how they built it, it's always like flaps all the way up. Like this is all out of the box components. There's a lot of like weird defects in the front wing lights and in the front here. And so I knew that I already got the cheat code with the resin kit. So like the front claws resin, the nose like long guns are the resin pieces, and the missiles are resin. And I was like, oh well, and the Gatling gun, which is secretly hidden. Like if you pop it open, I did that as well, even though you don't get to see it in the build.
Hmm.
Um, that's my just for me part of the
Nice.
part of it. So like I saw this and was like, everybody I saw either did it flat black like this and didn't have a lot of detail. So in this, like you can see somebody else like put the same thing together, but they match the box art for this. Like if you look at the box art and you look at this build, it's 1-to-1. Uh, this will come back later, but like they have the kit decals, which are huge, which I wound up not using. Um, which I'll get into. But like it's flat black. There's not a lot of interest. It's really hard to like find the detail. And this kit has 1,000 little pin rivets and all this like nice detail. And I really wanted to bring that out. The other thing I wanted to do was light it. And
Hmm.
if you go to the next photo after this, um, when people light it, they love to go in like wild directions. So like they love to do the Batman Forever thing where like there's engine glows
Mm-hmm.
on one or the other. They always love to use cool white LEDs, and I become like a real, I don't want to say snob, but like I pay attention to color temperature of things because of my background. And the original prop never had anything in cold blue. They didn't make cold blue lights in the 80s, it was all
Hmm.
incandescent. So I was like, I have to make the light that color temperature. And that's important to me because it goes back to the shot of the moon. Like the lights coming off the Batwing are different than what's coming on the moon. So it catches your eye,
Hmm.
you know. And and if you go to the next photo, like, so then I started looking at the reference. And so the next one is this is the prop. And so there's a lot here. There's a lot of like silver on the wing edge. There's all this beautiful streaking
Yeah.
and like little these little things to like it gives it like an almost like animal feel, but there's a lot of like smart like decisions that they made to just bring out this detail that you never ever see, but you have like a weird subconscious emotional connection to it, even though like when you see it in the movie, it looks like a black plane. That detail is all in the movie in a weird way.
I was gonna say because like it's only flown more or less at nighttime in the film, and like it's so dark already that seeing it in studio lighting like this, it's just not how I remember it in my brain, right? Um,
Right.
but you're saying that it does come through in the film in a way that is meaningful.
Well, it comes through in the way that I find people respond to it. Like
Mm.
people don't say like that's not the Batwing I remember. They like get weirdly like when I went to ODO this year, I kept being like, "Hey, my Batwing's over there," and you could never tell where it was, and it lit up, and it's 50 centimeters across, but there's somebody's whole body is in front of it because they just like they want it like, oh, is that what it is? Is that what that deal? Like you get people they have like a real emotional. Well, I mean, it to itself and that shot I'm emotionally connected to, and I really wanted to, like, you always find people of my age go right to that,
Hmm.
and older and younger. But anybody who's seen that shot, like, that's like a really iconic thing. People feel that shot, and so that's what gets them in there. And then, they just start like they start their eye starts drinking in all these little details and bits. Um, but in this, like as cool as this is, I couldn't make a model off of it because, um, as we know, it's a prop,
Hmm.
and Hollywood's props are enough to get on screen. I think is the best way to put that, right? So if you go to the next photo, this is probably the best way to like really show people. So this thing is in the movie, and it's only shot from the left side. And so you'll notice on the left side, there's all these, if you want to zoom in, there's all these beautiful decals. There's all these little stencils. There's all this like lovely detail on the left side. And then you go to the
Mm-hmm.
right side. So like the iconic like rudder on the aileron or whatever. Sorry, I'm not a plane person, but on the left side, the articulated like part there
Hmm.
to the plane. On the right side, it's drawn in. Uh, the the nose guns, there's only one nose gun and it's on the left side because that's all they needed to show. And then on the right side is a totally different color. The left side, because it's supposed to be dark, is much darker and it's a lot more detailed. And the right side is almost all silver with like a couple of spots of black because it's meant to catch the light as it comes away from the screen. So that way it doesn't just disappear. And so I'm sitting there trying to paint it, and then that turned into its whole like what do I do?
That is so
Because this isn't
interesting.
like I don't
Yeah.
right, like I don't want to make that. Nobody wants that. So that became sort of the mission statement was how do I use all of this but make it feel like what people remember.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. Seeing like I just skimmed through this picture earlier and I thought, "Oh yeah, Batwing, yeah, prop." But
Mm-hmm.
now that you're really digging into the details, you do notice that like the sides are asymmetrical and that like there's so many different things about it because they just simply didn't need it. I think that is
Right.
so fascinating and a challenge for you in a way, right? So, was
Right.
it as simple as just taking the left side primarily as reference and not the right side, or is there more to it than that?
No, so I split the difference with a lot of that. So I used as much of like I didn't want to make it a mirror
Hmm.
because I felt like when you looked at it, it would feel that way. So the right side of mine is lighter than the left side, but it borrows like it. I just got it probably. I would say it's like 70-30. Like it's 70% the left side, 30% the right side. So I got as close as I could, but I really liked Um, the wing wear on the front of the wing is a little lighter on the right. The placement for some of these burns that do exist in there, I tried to replicate in that, even though, like uh, like if I'm trying to point it out to you, it becomes sort of silly. But like by the machine guns, there's like an extra little like streak. I try to replicate that. I try to replicate some of this other thing, so it's not 100% symmetrical, so it
Hmm.
feels a little more hand built. But I like made sure that the decal placement was equal on both sides. That some of those things that you I don't want someone to come up to me saying like, "Hey, you missed the decal," or "You missed." Um, you missed these markings because I they weren't there.
You can just say, no, I
Um,
didn't.
yeah, exactly. And I don't want it to go down that route because it's very easy. I think like tank modelers, Gundam modelers, like that's not how that's supposed to be. Uh, and I think with like movie modelers too, like when I went to Wonderfest, you can still find that same person who's like, well, actually, it doesn't look anything like this. And a lot of my props, it's like Ed 209 isn't blue, he's gray, but the movie stock is blue, so Ed's blue,
Hmm.
right? And so like by doing it, you have to learn that like, oh, I painted it blue and I'm like, this does not feel, he looks like an egg. Like I don't want this. Um, and so like it becomes sort of like, well, okay, what am I feeling? What is this actually? And you have to fight like what it looks like on screen, what your connection is to it, and what the prop was, and sort of just I just like ingested all of that. I just like stared at this stuff for I had a lot of time. So and the build of this was probably about I think 85, 90% build, 15% paint. So once I started painting, it happened really fast, but it was only because like every time I'm building, I'm looking at this stuff and like thinking about, where I want to place whatever.
Yeah, there are reference photos, and you're trying to honor that like original look. But um, even then, you're still having to make a lot of very meaningful artistic decisions, which I think is really cool. You're not just copying something as a clone
Right.
because it's impossible to do, or if you tried to do it, it wouldn't look right, right? And so,
It wouldn't, and more than that, it wouldn't feel right. Right.
right,
Like
right.
and so you'd look at it and you'd be like, oh, what is that? Like you made a picture of the prop. Like you don't have any connection to it. You know, you'd be like, oh, that's cool that he did that, but like, I hate it.
Yeah, or it's
you
not how
know?
it's not bringing me back to 1989 or whatever it is that you're right.
Right.
Whenever you saw that
Right.
film, yeah.
And then the next picture is the bottom of it, which no one ever gets to see. But this was my guiding star for this because this is something that's like not really detailed.
Hmm.
And so like the edge of the wing is detailed, and there's some stuff in there as far as shading on the wings and like the little like wing clasps that are I don't even know what to call those, but like it looks like the bracket for the wing. Um, that gave me some indication there. The thing that really tricked me out in this is that if you look at this and like if you zoom in right behind the light where there's like a bottom fin that's broken, there's yeah, right in here. What color is that?
It's like a
I sat
bronzy,
there.
like a
Yep.
dark
And
brown.
how am I gonna make that color? And so that became I had a long time to make this model because it's respectfully a piece of crap. Nothing fit. I had a lot of work to do to like get it back to zero because it's a kit that's 40 years old. And so the whole time I'm doing that, I'm testing paints. I'm trying to figure that out uh, while all of this is happening.
Yeah.
So
Let's get into the actual kit itself then. Since you brought it up,
yeah, let's do
that's
it.
that's where I was gonna take us next. So that's perfect. And I was gonna say too, yeah, like these old AMT kits, like they are not they are not good. Like even my
No,
like the canopy on my Batmobile
no.
like wouldn't fit right, and like there's just so many
Yep.
things about these older model kits that need a lot of work, and you've had to make some choices too to make it feel more accurate as well, right? So I'm sure we'll get
Yeah,
into all of
right.
that. So
So like um
mhm.
I think just starting here, this is the main housing of it. There's the cockpit. The two main things I want to point out are that the and I forgot to mention this earlier, but the curse of this kit is that the cockpit opens, and so they made this like really toyish decision to carry it back and have hinge because they didn't want to model any of that, and they're like, well, kids want it, it's for kids, and so um, it became about, okay, I've got to make the top of it look accurate. Because to me, the thing I think about are the little missiles coming out of like the circular holes. And because this is just pressed like this is like literally day one, I just put on these fins. And so everything else about this, if you look at the mold, is just it's just pressed down. So everything is a hemisphere coming out because they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a way to close it. So I got to close that up. Um, and
Okay.
so like that's what I did. If you go to the next picture, I slammed those things shut. Um, and then I did that, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to make these holes? And so I did what anybody would do. If you go to the next picture, um, I drilled them out, and then I tore the plastic that I used, and then I used cement to rebond it, and then I used filler, and like I just started going crazy, just trying to like do and redo and undo uh, all of that to get these perfect circles. And
And
so,
before we keep going, this is all
yeah.
besides the fins. This is just one big piece of plastic, right?
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. And both of those got slotted in, and then it was like, okay, well, I did that. Should I have done that? Like I just wanted to like get started on it, and so I had to live with that decision for a long time for these because I couldn't take them back off, and so like getting around these like humps and through there was a really fun challenge. So yeah, I just used regular stock and flattened that, put it on, and then sanded it round to get it flush. So I would always glue it on where it's a little proud of the hemisphere because I had this happen with another kit where I used a flat piece of plastic and I did it, and then I had to build up so much to get it to disappear that
Mm.
it's just a lot of work. So I use these, I use something a little thicker, and I always had it where the corners were peeking out. And then as you can see here, I sanded it back to get it as close to flush as possible. Excuse me. Um, but then I had to like, this is me day three, like with the drill sticking out of it, literally like shoving Mr. Tamiya thin cement in there just to like soften it because I had torn it to bring it back and putting putty over that and like because it's metal, then just take it and pull it out because it's not gonna affect the metal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but this was kind of like this was a really good project of trust the process because as you can imagine, like I'm like, oh shit, I just ran 50 yards in the wrong direction, and I didn't. It actually like uh, it's like I didn't have to do a lot after that to like really figure that out. And so let's keep moving forward, and I'll
Sure.
just keep racking these out. This came late in the process. I started doing priming, and there are these little guns, but just like I said with everything else, it's press fit. So there are these little humps, and I'd always have this litmus test where I would ask my brother, like, "Hey, should I like modify this or should I leave it?" And he'd say, "No, man, leave it. Like you just don't worry about it." And my brain was like, "Do not listen to him." And so like, and so I had this, and I had a bunch of uh, what do you call those evergreen like
Yeah, like the.
sticks. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just drilled this whole thing out. I sanded the whole thing out, and then I just fit these together so they stack down because it's such a small detail. But I was like, I knew I need a hole. Like I know I need them to like sit in this sequence, and so I just cut them out and stuffed them in. Um, and
Nice.
they're still just as janky as that. Like the end there is a little off by my eye, but like you don't notice it because it's a detail that disappears. But if I had left it, it'd be the first thing you notice. Like, what are those lumps? You know? So there's a lot of like building out enough that like things visually feel right, and you're not like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something doesn't catch your eye in the wrong way.
Yeah. And simple, like two different size tubes cut fit into each
Yep,
other. But
exactly.
yeah, it
And
does make a big difference.
paint and a little oil, and that will change sort of your relationship to it as you get to the end. But you have to trust that like, okay, like I made simple shapes. Like, should I chamfer them? Should I start drilling like portholes to make it feel like a gun?
Mm.
Sometimes it's just that simple. You just have to do a little thing and then paint it, and your eye will fill in the rest.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
This
Great.
is this is all the resin kit stuff. So we talked earlier about like the claw that comes with it is like it's very toyish and it's funky. And so this is the little balloon claw that comes out of the front. You only see about half an inch of it, but it's got all this extra beautiful detail. But it had a ton of layer line, so I didn't really bring it out or like accentuate it because there wasn't a lot more that I could do with it. But with the amount of detail there, you know exactly what it is. And then um, and then over on the other side is the Gatling gun, which the one in the kit was like two halves and it was funky, and this is pretty dead perfect. And
Mm.
so I painted both of these with Mr. Color Brass, the super metallics. And then once I was done on the Gatling gun, I did the Cobra Plot thing. I taped over and masked it, and then I just took uh, 1500 surfacer and just blacked out the parts that were black and was like, okay, I did it thin enough that the brass comes through, that there's like something going on there. But then I was like, okay, I'm done moving on. Like this is just getting hidden. But it got done enough where like I know it's there and I didn't leave it out.
But that's cool because like you're basically replicating what the prop makers did in terms of they were painting brass, and so you're starting with a brass base and then building on top of that. So
Working the other way. Yep. Yep.
exactly, that's cool.
The missiles. This was a lot of fun. So these are actually copper, which like it's a very subtle difference, but it is a noticeable one when they're out in the thing. And this is I think this is the only part that I glossed in the whole kit. So I painted it copper, I painted it gloss, and then I took a little bit of acrylic candy red, and I have these pre-cut uh, masking papers, like the circle ones that you have,
Hmm.
and I just took it. I held it on those clips, and I just like gingerly put it over the top, and then I pinched the bottom of it and just sprayed those to get it. So sometimes like your masking doesn't have to be letter perfect or like, sometimes it's just as much as just laying it over that just to where it fits and spraying it to get those. And then I did another clear coat over that. And those
Perfect.
those read extremely well as they peek out. So this is designed to fit with the base kit. And in the base kit, those hemispheres, the back of the missile, it's supposed to sit in that, which like makes a problem worse in my opinion because it just looks like really wonky and out of place because the missiles poke out in the movie versus having them come out of the like little port. They're just like laying in there.
Hmm.
And so I'm really glad they were there because I wound up gluing them inside from the back with like hot glue or something. Uh, and it gave me enough of a purchase back there to keep them straight and level while I continued working. So
Yep.
yeah, this is the figure that came with the kit, and I have. If you go to the next picture, like that's the cockpit that came with the kit, and I'm looking at the figure, and I'm looking at the cockpit. Yeah, if we could put like a sad trombone here, like I was like this I cannot. What like I sat there for a day and I was like, what do I do? Like I can't keep going with this. Like this is okay, let's figure this out. And so this is before all of the tariffs. And so eBay and China were my friend there because I went on eBay and the next
Let's
picture
see.
was what I found on eBay, which was this statue. And I was like, oh, that'll work. And so I found one in the scale that worked. Uh, and then I bought it and then I prayed and it was to scale. And so when I got it in my hands, that is a lot better.
Oh
Womp
yeah.
womp. That Mudman, uh, he had really great sharp details. Uh, like as you can see here, looking at my fingerprint, like there's so much detail on like the face structure and doing the figure painting for like lips and stuff. I joke about this a lot that like I've spent a lot of time looking at figures to only paint like this much of a like I painted eyes kind of, but like RoboCop and Batman are the two main things I've done.
Right.
And so I've gotten really good at lips,
Right.
you know. I'm literally halfway there. And so yeah, I got that and as you can see, like I flicked them together. And so this is at the very beginning I start dry fitting. Um, I started I finished the missile pods and I was like, oh, this is gonna work perfectly. And so it became how do I get that statue to sit in the cockpit? And the answer to that is razor saw.
Hmm.
And so I literally just chopped him off here at the shoulders. You will see him get, and you can't tell on the actual thing, but progressively more broken as I have dropped him. I have like broken off all these like very beautiful details that you won't notice are broken in them, but like when I'm taking pictures from this close, it's like, oh man, all right.
Yeah.
So I cut off the arms and I just used sticky tack, and I played a long time to make sure that I didn't have to cut any more off of them. I would like seat them in here, they would fall off. But it was really about getting him in the cockpit where he's flying it. And as like an unintended, like really cool bonus, his head's turned,
Hmm.
which was something that like when I was building it, okay, maybe I have to put him more. He's on the stand, and when I finished him, he was originally on the stand before I put him on there. But I was like, I always wanted him up like this, and to me, it's like just as he hits the moon, that's the perfect position for him to be in as he's like leading the plane to the right. And I was like, this is perfect.
That's awesome. But I love that his head is cocked over a little bit just because it just adds like a little bit more like dynamism, right? He's not a
It adds a
robot.
little
He's not a
tension. It gives
statue.
him a little,
Yeah.
yeah. He's not just like this the whole time.
It's
And
not
when you
stiff.
watch the
Yeah.
movie, he's always leaning and like making use of the space. And this really helped me sell that.
That's
Um,
perfect.
and so if you go to the next one, like that became sort of the thing of like, okay, I've built him. I got the hands exactly where I wanted. So uh, there's a lot of like, people talk about like pinning
Hmm.
and using all of these like advanced techniques. And I did a whole class on like resin customizing at Wonderfest about like all the very like technical ways that you have to get things to line up. And then I ignored all of that and I globbed a black CA right in the armpits and just shoved it in there, and then used filler to just make sure that it lives in there. And I was like, that's it. But in this one, I put all of those things in there, and then the resin cockpit had a yoke for the flight controls, which don't make any sense in the real world. It's got like a thing here and a joystick that's on a steering wheel that like moves. And so this is me just getting all of that together. I had to like cut all the pieces and put all of that together. Um, and then with the statue, it's got all this beautiful detail, right? But I have to get the legs to fit, and the legs that fit best in that kit are the original legs.
Mm.
So I did the only reasonable thing was that I used the belt on the original kit as a guideline, and I sawed that guy in half, and then I took this and I poured a bunch of black CA in there, and I just stuck this on those old legs, and that's how that's how it looks, and it works, and you can never tell because the belt perfectly hides all of that.
That's great.
Uh, yeah, so he's in there, and then that result is there. So that's me when I did a lot of the shading. You can see now, like, you can see the filler and all of that stuff. Um, but it looked great. I found this really great yellow for this
Hmm.
emblem. It doesn't like the belt's different. And I did all that. And then the next thing was to do the face. A lot of that was like work with the detail, fight with contrasts. I did a lot of lightening around the eyebrows, the edge of the nose, to just make it feel like the rubber suit of the movie. You
Hmm.
get to see my favorite Easter egg of this that I love to share with people is that I broke one of his ears that
Hmm.
you'll never see because the cockpit is cloudy. But yeah, it's just this whole thing is like I wanted to bring out his face, and so like I think the thing I really want to talk about here is like uh, the advice that was given to me is you really want to paint figures like somebody in stage makeup. In that, like, if you looked at this and I took it out of the cockpit and you stared right at it under whatever scope to make it 1-to-1, it would feel wildly like splotchy, and it wouldn't even read well on camera. But you want to play with it that it's high contrast enough that even in this, that looks like Batman. I got the chin line right, I got the lips right, and then I worked really hard to get like these iconic things that are Michael Keaton to bring them into that. And it's a lot about like just playing with the brown tones to get that. But even his skin is uh, there's like a blue here on the chin. There's a
Mm.
little bit of a soft white here on the lip and on up here to just bring those values where they're a little in real life outside of reality. But when you're looking at it, even from this far away, your brain just goes, I know who that is.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, when they do figures, it's like just do a wash and put it away. And like my my ask of the community, or that's not really like, but like guys, like just go a little further. Like it's you're not going to get it right. Some of them are really janky. I mean, for this one, I love that I got the eyes right, but I got to tell you, like that got really close to being like, Batman, uh, a couple of times. But like it's just take it a little bit further, because even just doing some small things of like the chin and making the lips come out, someone will look and say that's somebody's face versus just trying to do the like overhead light with like the shadowy eyes.
Hmm.
And like in 1/100, it's a little impossible. You can't do much more than that. But when you have these bigger figures, like have fun with it. Like make that a part of the project. Don't shy away from it. I'm no good at this, and I was able to get some like really good results just by like uh, taking the risk, and like if it doesn't look good, it's not going to look good. But like let's see how far we could get. And that was really a lot of like my ethos through this build. It's like just keep going. Like if it breaks, like we can always fix it. Don't
Hmm.
don't be scared to take the next step. You want to just do it. So yeah, so when I started building the cockpit, here's it is where I'm pulling it in and out. Um, I had these like little holes that came with the resin cockpit, and in the actual uh, 1-to-1 and all the close-up shots that they have of the movie, he has all of these little dials and things. And I figured anything that had a light, I had to get a light in there. The way in which I connected this is I used a lot of sticky tack to keep them down in there. And only when I was really ready to finalize these, I used canopy glue to just glue up in the top there, just to give it something that it's not moving in and out. Because what would happen is
Hmm.
anything I did on the other side of my finger there, where those strands are, it would just be Batman, and the lights were like, here in front of his face. And
Hmm.
so um, I pulled all of those out uh, to get that to feel right. But I have a second consideration here, which we'll talk about in the LED section, which is that um, light bleed is a very real thing. And so, like, what ad hoc solutions could I come up with? Because, like, the vents on that are open. And so I don't want any light bleed with open vents. So, what am I like? I don't want to tape them off because you'll see it. Like, what am I going to do? So, I came up with an interesting solution. So, my solution here was that I fed all of these, and I bought an LED, and I took going back to that giant mass of evergreen styrene. I have a 4 millimeter wide styrene, and I cut a little can of that, and in the top I stuck a 3 millimeter LED, and I taped it closed with this silver tape that you've seen everywhere so far, which is HVAC tape. It's the
Okay.
stuff that they use to seal air ducts. Well, it sticks to itself. It's easy to use. It's easy to cut, and it's metal, so um, there's no light bleed if light's not going through metal. And so I built literally a can light in the back there, and I took these other fibers and I fed them up in there, and I just taped over the whole back to enclose it, to like gently keep everything in there and keep it in one place. But it worked really well. So
That's
like
awesome.
sometimes it's about like coming up with these solutions where like space is a huge constraint. The only gap I have, if you go to the next one, I'll show you with it in the cockpit. Um, that's all the space that I have, but I have to fit all the wiring. I don't know if I have to put a battery pack in here. I don't know like what the next things are. So like I glued everything in. I used heat shrink to separate the LED, like the different parts that I wanted to make sure that they fit. I then combined them, used more heat shrink, and then tape, 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 tape. And so if that all falls apart in 10 years, it's going to all fall apart in 10 years, and there's nothing I can do about it. But in the meantime, like I used the best tools I had available without having to go run. I didn't have to go run down like what the reactions are, because like fiber optics can get really weird with heat, with specific CA glues, and I just didn't know
Hmm.
what that was, and I didn't. I was on a roll, like I didn't want that to slow down. So the LEDs had to go on the wingtips too, and so I did the same thing. I wanted putting this on both sides, um, where the LEDs sit in a channel. So I routed a channel in there to fit the LED, because that was just like a nub in the front, and it fits perfectly the square LED for the front, which is perfectly domed like a classic light. And then for the rest of this, then the light's not bleeding. The next one, that's where there's these two lights under the ship as well. And so these are where they put the kit landing gears. The first thing I did when I started building all of this is I had to cut those away because I needed to make space because I knew I had to put those LEDs. And so underneath that tape is the gear doors because I wanted to so I mean I wanted to keep those. I didn't want them just to be flush. Going back to the reference, they don't exist in the real model. Like this is just what AMT felt like the Batwing should have for the people who want it on the tarmac. So I just taped that back to get all of that, and then rested those LEDs in there, and I used hot glue to fit them in there, which worked really well to get them exactly where I wanted. And actually in this one as well, this little bottom left corner, there's this little glob of sticky tack and a hole there. Yeah, that's the stand, and that's where everything's routed through. That's the original stand hole, and I just kept it exactly as is. And the kit is the second print of it. Thankfully, it has like a metal tube that's hollow, and so I just drilled that out and just used that as that's what mounts it to where it is today, and was able to feed everything through there.
That worked out perfectly. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. The next bit that we'll talk about is just the wingtips. So if we go to the next thing, like that was getting the wingtips in as we were talking earlier, like that feels like the the incandescent bulbs that they would have used at that time for those. And so I was able to get it out where it fit right and it felt right. And then it had to get covered.
Yeah.
And so if you go to actually, let's leave it here for a second because I want to point something out here. On the kit here, when they built this, the covers for these are clear plastic, and they are very weirdly shaped. And I don't think that the kit manufacturer could like get it right. And so what they did is like a way to split the difference and just make it work is they built this like lip around there that's maybe half a millimeter. That's like a trim. That doesn't exist on the real thing. And I was like, okay, I have to get rid of this. But one of the things I was very conscious about was I didn't want to get rid of the kit's detail. So if we go to the next slide here, you'll see I trimmed out all of that before I put this on. And then I put the clear plastic on. And then I did something a little bit later that sort of harkens back to the original design, which I'll get into a little more in depth when we're going back through paint. But like that was able to like give me what I needed, but like, really worked. I had like so much tape around these rivets to keep me from standing them away. Because that just goes into the whole seams. Like there's rivets all over this. And so like to play with the seams to make them accurate. Like I wanted to keep those rivet lines. I wanted to keep this line, which is true to the original reference, which I'll show you at the end.
Yeah.
So like, it just became a lot of play.
And these are the original glass pieces that came with the kit. And then there's just a fat seam that's just right there at that, like the top half and the bottom half's there too.
When I started doing the LEDs for the wings, I wound up just making a decision. Like the wires were long enough. The fastest I could get it, I sealed the wings and put these on there to close that up. And this was it was a lot of black CA and extra thin. So extra thin where I could get it. And then I've learned over the last year, black CA is one of the best like ways to fill a seam that doesn't sink. Black CA is a good one. And then you buy a bottle of Surfacer 500 in a brush. And that's the second way that I do it. Is I literally just take it and slap it and slather it on there. And I leave it for an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, as long as my patience will allow. And then I sand it back.
I like that. Unthinned?
That's the most unthinned, just the big blob. And I have these little disposable Amazon brushes that are just like, they come to a fine point and I ruin the brush. And when I'm done with it, I throw the brush away. You can use toothpicks, you could use everything else because it's got enough consistency that it'll do it. But like, I think that like the community is like surfacers for airbrush for spray. And like, like that it's fair, but like tank modelers will use that. And that's how they're able to get the texture of tanks. Like there are so many other disciplines of modeling that use these tools in a much different way than the way that like we use them. I'll put myself in a couple modeler model category,
Hmm.
even though they're just for me at the moment. But like that's what my principles are. Like even though I don't use those for my builds, like you can then take that and you have the Zaku shoulder, like you can create pieces that feel cast or have a different texture to just create again another level of differentiation um,
I like that.
while
Yeah,
you're working.
that's a great tip.
The last two things here for LEDs were just um, if you go to the next page, like this is how this lived for like a week with me just being like, I need to seal this. I'm not going to seal it. I need to seal this. I'm not going to seal it. But like, this is where like, even when you don't have space constraints, unless you're going to sit here and like, this is me trying to solder everything together and I soldered all of the wires, like you're always going to have extra wires. You're always going to have this stuff unless you're pencil knife, like you're always going to have this extra workable room. So like you want to do some decisions always with the thought of a space constraint, even if it doesn't exist, because it'll appear. So like talking about the can light, like no, I could have done something bigger. I could have done something that took up more space. There were a few other solutions there, but doing it this way saved me later when I was trying to put these together and I had to compete with the wings and these lights coming up and getting all of these bundles. I didn't have to cut everything where like I'm then fighting and playing with something like this, which just gets a lot more stressful to be as play as possible. It gives you the ability to just like come back to it later. It gives you more workable room if something goes wrong. So like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Don't fill
uh,
up the whole space just because you have it, is what you're saying.
because this stuff always crops up. There's always wires. There's always something, especially if you're modifying a kit or playing with in those spaces. Like the weirdest things will come at you from the left that will then just take up that space, and you really ultimately don't have a lot to work with. So, um, yeah, like just think about your solutions in ways that like give you that as much as possible.
Yeah, good tip.
Because I used all of it, and then if you go to the next one, uh, I knew I got it. And I took that photo. I have a bathroom here in the basement that's like behind this wall, has no lights in it. And I took that photo and like, it's still all taped together. And I was like, oh, I did it. Like that was my
Yeah,
like, okay, this feels like yes.
that must be a great feeling.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you can ride that high and like just if you have a moment to see the goal to create that for yourself, it really does carry you through the next phase of your build. And it makes those next problems like feel a little smaller. So like
Hmm.
if you can take a moment to celebrate in the middle of a build, especially with one where like trust the process is a big part of it, take every opportunity.
Absolutely.
Um,
Love it.
um, Scribing and seaming, I think, is probably the next thing that we need to talk about, but it is
All right.
very fast. So this is after I put everything together. Okay, so all of the details on this are raised, and aircraft modelers hate raised
Hmm.
um, things because if something goes wrong, you then have to like like rivet everything. You have to start working with the seam lines. But what I can tell you here is in the middle of this page, if you move your cursor down and to the right a little bit, like right where all the wing root and this nose are, that's a seam like just above you. You can see this like hole right here.
Hmm.
And what I can tell you is that your eye doesn't know positive and negative when you're dealing with this. So I filled all of these seams. I rescribed the seam to the negative. I followed the back edge of it to just carry it forward. And I took a pin and I just drove it into those softer surfaces. And when you look at it in person, you cannot tell that some of these are positive of the surface and some of these are negative of the surface. And this
Mm-hmm.
took me probably two or three times because I didn't always get it right. And if you don't get it right, Mr. Service are 500. But
Yeah.
like going back to you with the 1500, right? Like you just fill it, you do it again, you fill it, you do it again until it feels right.
That's a
So
fun
like
little, yeah, little optical illusion there. Yeah.
you know those things where like the head it turns and it looks like it's always looking at you, but it's actually just like they inverted
Hmm.
it and it's sticking
Yeah,
in
it's
and your brain
recessed.
does it.
Right.
Your brain can't tell. So when you're working with that, rather than sitting there like trying to go through the whole process of making all of this letter perfect, which that's if you want to do that, like that's the model you are. But if you're running into that problem, sometimes it's easy as just doing this and it reads perfectly. Like your brain can't tell. The seams on this kit were a little extreme. So the wings would go in and they were seated to the canopy in a pretty ingenious way, but they gave a lot of room to like allow for flex. And when you're building a model that's going to get painted and you want that to disappear, like how is I going to fill that? And so I rack my brain, and I have all of this. I had these little flat strips of evergreen. So like keeping stuff in your tool bag, I bought a lot of these are like you don't have to buy each piece. There's multi-packs of these. So I just found something that was a tolerance. I stuck it in. It was, fully proud of all of this. I then took extra thin cement. I extra thinned it on both sides, and then I used the scalpel blade and I just pushed on it from an angle to just cut it trim, and then I sanded. So if you the next photo, like you can see me about three-quarters of the way through, like
Hmm.
you can see that it's there because it's not fully finished, but like I couldn't think of another way that I was going to able to maintain like the back of the wing scallop there, like on that line, to keep the front edge, to keep all of these like height differences, to keep them all in line without doing that. And it was really like I said, the first step of that was if both the pieces line up and they're level. Like after that, I just sanded them because they were a little off. You taking a razor blade and pushing across, like it didn't take a lot of effort, but by pushing it across, I was able to just fully cleave all of that and get it to fully line up. And then from there I went sand crazy.
Yeah. I was just
So
about to ask you how the seams were, because these guys sometimes get kind of warpy. One side doesn't quite line up. And so, yeah, this is a
yeah.
nice little
So the
solution.
I did all of this. Like at this point in my kit, it's just like it really encapsulates that. So I finished everything. I put everything in to get the two halves around the wings and to clamp them. There's no seam here on the bottom. So this is the bottom seam of the kit between the wing and the body. And then the top, it's along that wing root and it goes like underneath. You saw the vents and everything, right? Like I sealed all of that.
Hmm.
I finish sealing all of that. I get it done and I hear a pop because the whole top of it the whole time has been like this. Like the front of the nose to the back of it has a torsional bend in it. And so I got all of it in and I like literally clamped it to press all of it. And then it finally like settled. And then the one part that had to give gave. And I just took it, I breathed, I grabbed it, I sealed it, and then it was done. And I'm really thankful that like there wasn't any more like structural pressure on it to cause more than that, but just by like fighting it and like causing a point for all of the because like you put it in and you can get this side in and you can get this side in, but it's like eating a big cookie, that breaks in the middle. Like not everything felt like it
It was
would
happy
fit
where
all
it
at the same
was.
time.
Uh-huh.
Right. And so I just got everything to fit as happy as it could be. And the one spot that was going to give it up did. And then, and then that was perfect because then everything else sort of forced it in the right position. And then you sealed that and nothing. And like I waited, you know, give it a day maybe when you're doing that because maybe something else will pop. But nothing else popped. Everything was perfect level at that point. But yeah, at the end of that, it was it. When I heard that pop, I was like, okay, where is it? Perfect. Okay, what am I gonna do? Okay, like jam, done. Like, and then I ran away, and it didn't do anything else, thankfully.
Whew.
So
Yeah. After all that work, man, that would have been, yeah, it's like, whatever the opposite is of like cracking your back or something like that.
yeah, exactly.
I get the sense that you're kind of like, as you're building, I mean, you're thinking really deeply, but you're also like having to improvise a lot, right? which is
Yes,
great, but that's what I mean. That's part of the gig, right? Nothing's ever going to turn out kind of what you expect, or the process isn't going to be the way you expect necessarily. But what's
right.
coming through is that you're really thoughtful about the decisions you make about how you want the outcome to be, and
Right.
you're kind of, by whatever means necessary, we're going to get to that outcome, which I think is
Yes,
a
but
really
also
cool.
I'm not. I think, but like I'm also not married to it because when I first started doing this, I like had an exact thing I wanted to do. I guess my process is I ingest all of that reference, and I just sit there and I build the whole thing in my head over and over and over again, and I pick these colors over and over and over again. But I do all of that, so in the moment when I do it and it does something over here, like it doesn't slow me down or stop me. I can then like either pivot, say like, is this acceptable? Should I keep moving? Like, oh, well, this would be really fun because then when I'm weathering, I could do this and that'll get me closer, right? Like, well, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll start talking about that when we start talking about paint because the whole paint decision was that like I knew that I needed to get to the brown, and so it became this like this ultimate decision of like, okay, how much brown do I want to use? How much black do I want to use? I have to like I want the metallics to feel deep, but at the same time, like I don't want it to feel like it's just made of like metal. When I did the Batmobile, it's all just one flat black, like dark iron, and it looked really cool when I did it. But ultimately, it didn't have this like texture to it, and so um, the prop does. Like the prop has it. There's so many like when you look at it and you really look at it, and those references I got. So let's talk about that. Like the references I got, I did the Adam Savage video. I watched that, and so this is when they were selling this prop, and so they had done some restoration, but they are very diligent about what was used, um, like what the process was. They have a mountain of reference photo, and they would do these screen matches, and they would do the screen match against that, and then against the film. So you would look at this. This isn't from the movie itself. I don't think. I think this is from like behind the scenes, but they had it in all of like the Warner Brothers stuff that they brought across, and so you're able to see, and they like circle like, don't you see this matches, this matches, this matches, and they were able to like verify authenticity because this is that. But like, I love that because I then went to Prop Store and they took incredibly high res photos, like 10 megabyte. Each of those is like 10 megabytes a piece. So like they're huge. You can just zoom all the way in. You can really look at it. The color is really there. And I just grabbed everything there. And I mean, I went crazy. But like to have it in your head and to sit there and work on it. So when you're to ultimately get back to, so when you're working on the problem and it faces you on the day, you've looked at it from enough different angles, like in your head, that when you're attacking it, you're not caught off guard. You're like, oh, that didn't turn out the way I expected. Okay. So finally we make it to paint. So this is just after I finished. You can see the nose guns aren't on there. Everything else is pretty much put in. This is literally right after I finally like fixed that seam that had popped. Um, so this is where I started priming. You can see here where I started to do a lot of this like um, browns and blacks and browns and blacks and to create these tones. When I originally did this, it was really, really extreme. It didn't read really well, but this is where I start getting the texture that everyone has seen. I think that's really like this is this work right here is what everyone likes about, but doesn't. I don't want to say no, but like intuitively likes about this. It's like an emotional thing where like, how did he do that? Like, what's that difference? And really, it is just if you have an opportunity to play with your primer layer both in gloss black sometimes and doing like browns and stuff, do it. And in this here, I think this is a little like I started doing some of the metallics you can see here on the
hmm
vents and on the front because there's a lot of this like facing metallic where it looks like it had rubbed back. And so like actually this is a good example. That's where in this like I started doing a lot of these like metallics here and here. And I really went using the reference like extreme in this bit. So it became a lot of like these surfaces should feel like closer to the bare metal.
hmm
It probably only took me about 14 days, maybe. to go through all of the paint and the weathering. It went really fast once I was done, getting it to like getting it to stay together. Uh, you know, um, the next part went really quick, and I think that like if you have a build that's hard, don't be afraid to do that. Okay, so for this next one, you can see here the bat ears, like the nose, like
Hmm.
that's all plain metal. And you'll see a change here. I did the wing tips here, and this is Moto Armor Iron, which is just such a weird color. It is one of I used it a lot in Prime. It's I think it's the main color of like Prime stuff. It it takes on a lot of different properties, and it like for me, iron is like a very dark color, like that burnt iron.
Hmm.
People use it for like subframe, like the all the way back when you're working on gunpla. And this sort of splits the difference between that and steel and aluminum, where it's almost too bright for something like this. So it was a lot of fun with this, and it played really well with the browns that were here. So there's that first stage there, kind of going over all of this. You can see it on the canopy bit. You can see it on the nose. You can see where I have taped over the little pincer in the front, which does come
Hmm.
off eventually.
Right there. Yeah.
Um, yep. So
Love
this
it.
next one here goes over more as I'm getting finalized to this. So I started to do. I used it's acrylic. It's Golden's shading color, I think is what it's called, but it's one of those translucent like shading things. And you can see where I'm starting to work on the actual one. The as I talked about in this like I love it using this as janky thing as reference, but
Hmm.
like this variation here where this is dark to light to dark to light.
Hmm.
I'm starting to do that there using acrylics, and I'm spraying the rest of the iron on here, which is everything that's not this moto iron is a dark burnt iron that I put everywhere else. And I didn't do it particularly heavily. A lot of the primer layer is working through there, but that's doing a lot of the work of like um, the vent fins in the back and sort of like where all of the little rivets are. They're starting to come out, and
Mm.
that was one of the things I really loved about this kit. That you don't like we were looking earlier. People would just paint it black, and that detail would just disappear, and like that's what makes this feel like it's hammered together by Bruce Wayne, I guess. But it
Right.
makes it feel a little like more in universe. It makes it feel a little more like put together. I kept going back over them. I used pencils on them. I tried to do a lot of different things to um, keep them coming out. I used a little bit of oil, like wash around them in some places, but I didn't do it everywhere to just like give a little more contrast under them, use pencils over them to bring them out because I wanted each of those panels to like really show
Hmm.
up. So going back to the decals were about double the size to scale of the kit scale. And I realized this if you look at the wingtips, because I finally nailed the wingtips and I took the tape off. Um, they
Like up
were
here.
wider
Yeah.
than the light by yes, they were wider by like the line at the bottom was wider than the light, which the reference photos it's not that wide. And so again, I went to the community and was like, I need to figure out math. Like they're just one color. I don't know what to do. These are really small. And so I got talking to this guy. He goes by Santini, but he's in Richmond, and he's an IPMS guy down there. And he and I got talking. He's like, you give me the file, I'll cut him for you. I'll ship him up. I was like, he just did it for me as like, have buddies, which
Nice.
was so great. It was awesome. And here you're also seeing where a lot of these like metallics are starting to play with each other. I sprayed I sprayed gunmetal on the wing guns here and on the nose guns, which I don't think I've permanently put the nose guns on. I think I just have them on with canopy glue, um, as I'm like trying to like get these relationships so I could take them off and put them on. Which, by the way, canopy glue is a huge unsung hero both for this build and in general. It is a glue that doesn't get stiff, so when you're building with it, you can stick stuff on and it's permanently on, but you can yank it right off, and it's gummy in the way that like it feels almost like a really like a more glue version of that liquid mask, where like it's cohesive enough that like it'll stick to itself. It's cleanly removed. but it will keep that there forever until you need it. So like for
Hmm.
these nose guns, I had to like drill at the very end. I had to do some modifications to get them to fit the way that I wanted, but I knew I wasn't ready for them yet, but I kept putting them on to like play with those relationships during the paint phase. And canopy glue is something in my toolbox that really like saved that for me.
Hmm.
So,
Good tip.
um, so moving on here, this just goes more into the rest of that. You can start to see where I'm starting to use uh, a few different colors in the wings here. You can see it on the edges here. I used NATO black in the like the two trenches that run up the length of the wing. So it's just as close to black as I could get, but not have it be black. Um, to really get those to feel that they like went in. And then I started to do a lot of like dry brushing on these like I don't know what you would call them, like heat sink vent things on the top of the wings.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And
Hmm.
more on the right side. This is where you're starting to see the relationship actually going back to what we were talking about earlier. This is where I started really playing with like the left side's darker and the right side's lighter. And I think you can start to see it here in that the like wing edge on the right side is starting to get a little bit lighter. The top by the light is a lot lighter than it is on the left. So it's like just really playing with those to really create some dimensionality panel to panel
Hmm.
while making it a little darker on this side than on the sorry on the left side than on the right side. I'm
Yeah.
realizing that's probably not.
It's a subtle change. I wonder how you kind of approach that, but also, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but like thinking about the light that this model kit is going to be under, right? Because I feel like the whatever lighting you're having the model in is going to really change that sort of dynamic, right?
Mhm.
In terms of lightness and darkness. So,
Right.
like, how are you thinking about that?
Well,
And
that's that. Yeah, like that's why I think I did a lot of the lightest parts in a metallic, while letting a lot of the darker stuff is like Archive X Engine Black is like a little bit that shading color. So those are all about the shades. The shadows in this are about knocking down specularity, whereas all the highlights are about increasing specularity. So no matter how much light, it's it slides on the same scale because we talked about that earlier with the Batmobile. Like that's where you get lost playing with infinite black.
nice.
So testing blacks, Archive X has been something that I have played with for a while. Ed 209 is mostly Archive X. It is, I think before this we had talked about it and you had asked me about it. It is the most fun, greatest, biggest pain in the ass paint I've ever worked with in my entire life. So it is a very thick acrylic. It has a thinner that you use with it, but it is never. I have never gotten it to spray in a way that is great. Archive X for me is it's special to me because because of what it is. So Archive X paint, and I assume you know this, but for people who don't, like the colors on this, these are I originally bought this because if you ask me what my girl kit is related to that. But I bought a paint set because these are all the old ILM colors. So what I learned from that, and I used this and applied it to Ed, is that ILM had a set of paints that were specific to ILM. They didn't just buy a bunch of stuff and like it wasn't changed subject project to project. They had just like a set of colors, and these are color matched to those. Like they had an enamel line years ago, and now they have this acrylic line that is color matched to that, which is huge for like scale Star Wars guys that do the like studio scale stuff. But what I find is that talking about emotional connection, you see those colors and they feel right to you because you've seen those colors in things you don't know in the back of your brain that are scale models like from when you're a kid. So everything I've ever done when people look at those and those paints are on it, ultimately I get somebody in there that's like, this just feels like it feels like the thing. And for me, it feels like the thing because your eye knows that you've seen that before, in the
Mm-hmm.
X-Wing, you've seen it in Ed. So like Ed 209, the guy who built that wasn't working for ILM, but he built it for like $50, in the back of a garage for the director because that movie had no money. So he definitely just like grabbed a bunch of paints from ILM and painted it. And and for this too, right? Like the it becomes like the industry has a set number of colors. So if you're able to use these, like I used a lot of this engine black. This is what I ultimately used of these three.
I love that. Yeah. And for people who have not been following along for the last 5 minutes, ILM is Industrial Light and Magic,
Oh, yeah.
Lucasfilm, the original Star Wars films. So all that paint is related to those
Yeah, and
colors, right?
it's a little funky. Don't get discouraged. It's just weird paint, but like if you fight with it long enough, it'll
It,
work
it'll reward you.
in your benefit. Yeah. So
There you go.
this is what it looks like almost at the end.
Hmm.
You can see on like well, to me, I can see there's some of that what I was talking about on the left wing. There's a little bit of this like um, flat black outside of those rivulets and in a couple of different places, which is that Archive X. And then from there, I started to do oils for the again to further bring out the spacing in that nose and some of these other areas, which I don't think we have a good picture of. Okay, so I did all of that. I peel back the tape for the canopy after I had finished everything. You want to zoom in?
Yeah. What do you want to see? Just at
Just
the
zoom straight in. Just look at right at Batman. You see all that? You see all that?
ah
See all that in the canopy that I had featured and thought I had done a really great job.
saw like all these streaking and scratching kind of looking things.
Scratching, streaking, it's all inside. And then I realized like I had put all of that on and put it on, and it's the interior tint is too dark. And so I'm like, oh, okay. I pulled the canopy. This is when I finished everything and then I had to pull the canopy off. The canopy is already starting to split into those two sections, and I ultimately, so long story short, I had to redo this canopy 7 times before I got it back on and got it finished. So like I sanded it, I futured it, and these scratches are like from when I sanded it, it caught something in there and it wouldn't let go. I finished all of it. It was perfect, and there's a thumbprint on it that somehow had gotten on there. Like it was everything that went wrong with this. And so the canopy that's on there now, if there's one thing I was to ever change about this kit, it would be I would buy a new kit and I would redo the canopy and pull this one off to do that. I won't do it. I have like accepted and I'm just gonna live with this because I actually like that like this exists as like a it's never perfect. Like sometimes you just have to like let it go
So this is the little detail
on a
that
build.
drives you nuts, but maybe somebody walking past wouldn't catch.
Nobody has ever said anything about it. I had to stop messing with this because it got clear plastic when you start stressing it out gets these like hair thin micro scratches and they all run in the same direction and it was just starting to go everywhere. And I was like, if I do a single thing more to this, it's just going to start falling apart. Because I had
Oh,
to sand this down. I had to like replane it and do all of that work to get rid of those little divots that we were talking about earlier to get it to this point. And I thought I had nailed it. And once you're done, like you didn't get it, you know? And sometimes that happens. It's like just start over. Like
yeah.
it's okay to pull that part off. And I did like I did a lot.
Well,
And ultimately like that was the
sometimes Batman's ears like hits the canopy when he's getting in. There's.
yeah, it's something.
I, I
But
I
I
get the
mean
feeling
I
though
had
that
to
just the feeling that you thought you had it all nailed down and just like at the last minute some goes wrong that you're not
it's
happy
the
with.
last thing I'm taking a tape off of. I've got it. I'm in the home stretch. And it was like, okay, what do I do? And like I put more future on it. And after the third attempt, the future you'd put it on and it would wick away
Hmm.
because it had nothing to grab onto because there was already so much future. And I'm like standing between this, but there was just not a way to do it. I wound up having to take it and polish it by hand and, go through all of the stages of polishing it by hand and then put it back on. And like it's not as clear as it was. You can't like really look at Batman, which like I'm always a little disappointed in, but at the same time like I feel like it splits the difference that like he still looks like Batman. Like if you could really get a light in there and like what's going on in there, like you can see his eye color. It's like I'll take it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So we're at final photography.
Yes. So this is as soon as I finished it, this is it on its like standard base, with, like a little 9 volt under it. Um, I finished it, but like this is a great picture just to show you sort of all of the oils and everything and how everything is playing together. One of the things that I've seen like in this is that the decals have disappeared in these sort of bigger pictures,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Mm-hmm.
almost like because it's a detail like we talked about earlier. Like you don't see all the decals, but if you look in, you can see them through all of the smoke and the debris. And you can
Yeah.
see actually here on the nose, you can see where the oils like really bring out those lines again, and you can see really where all of that played. I did oil like a little bit of an oil wash into each of those panels as well to just like give little browns and like little variation in each of those panels. And that moto just like it just drank it up and it did its own thing, and I didn't have to do a lot of work. I on the backs of the wings, I did like an oil like brush of burnt umber just to bring the brown of like stuff going through those fins, and then after that it was like pencils and like I just had everything. And this is my favorite stage. Like if we're to talk about like the stage that stresses me out the most, because to me there's just a lot going on, is like the first few steps of paint, because there's so much trust in the process and I want it to look like the thing. This is where I really have a lot of fun because my brain just shuts off and I grab something and I'll do pencils and I'll do this and I'll try this little detail. And like it's hard for me to tell you what I did because I just like I'll just sit there in an afternoon and I have oil on cardboard and I'm gonna brush this a little bit. Oh, I'm gonna mix this with a little terpenoid and I'm gonna do this. And okay, that looks great. And I'll grab these pencils and I'll get this and I'll dry brush this with some enamel and I'll do, like there's all of these little fun spots just to try 1,000 little things that like all of my work before that is to have fun here. And then once you start playing with oils and you're starting to play with enamels somewhat, although enamels can be really finicky, but oils especially, you can't hurt any, like you physically can't hurt anything. So like the streaking by the guns, the vents next to the cockpit, like just brushing all of this stuff on, and then I'm working it back and I'm doing it, and it's creating all of these interesting things in the acrylic for the decals, which are just stenciled acrylic lettering gray from Archive X. Like it drinks in all of this oil, and then you're able to brush it back, but it doesn't ever take the paint away.
Mm-hmm. You're really free at this point. I would love to hear about the moon.
When you think of this, like this is the shot that everyone thinks of. When you think of Batman, this is the shot that you think of. Like people who've not seen the movie know the shot. It is
Mm-hmm.
it's a part of the culture, right? And so there was no other, like I had to figure this out. And so there was a lot of research and playing around and like, am I gonna buy a decal? Am I gonna build like I knew this is how I wanted to build it. I was gonna build a light with it edge lit with some contrast in the moon, with some surface variation that it looks like the moon, but like if you go back to the original shot, like that's where that plays. It was important to me that the color temperatures of the lights of the Batwing are very warm because in the original shot the moon is blue, and so that relationship became very important to me. And so I bumped into this. This is a wall light. It's a sconce, and they sell them in like 3 or 4 different sizes. This one was 40 centimeters, and I'm like, I guess I'm just gonna buy a light and like we'll just see what happens. And so I bought it and I got it, and I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna like what do I got to do next? I had a lot of aspirations of like painting this in like a clear sky blue and doing all of that, and ultimately I didn't do that because it looks great. I drilled a hole in the back of it to fit the rod that was originally in there. And I'm like, I'm sailing free. And then the plug fell out of the box and it's the European two prong.
Yeah. Oh.
And I was like, how am I going to get this to stand on a table and be powered by anything? And well, so what I did was I pulled the hole back open and I gutted it. I pulled all of the guts out of it because I knew that you're not running 240 volts into an LED without it exploding, right? Going back to that original story of my relationship with it. So like I just started pulling everything out, and luckily, like a lot of it was labeled where it stepped down. And so what I found in all of that and labeled on this, because I thought I was going to have to pull the LED itself out and replace it
Mm-hmm.
when it was a 12 volt. And so like that got me stressed. And then when I started looking back through the Evans design stuff to figure out like what I need to do, I saw that this handle load up to 12 volts. So I put everything in. I got the moon powered at 12 volts. Um, and I put resistors to the Batwing to just give me a little bit of like space between whatever is going into the main the light and that. But what it also does is that the moon is always the brightest thing.
Hmm.
And then uh, and when I did actually when I did the wiring is in two stages. So it goes that, and then it goes the wing lights, and then it goes the cockpit. So I was able to stage down in sequence that the cockpit lights are never brighter because I hate when you see something that's lit and this thing that shouldn't be very bright is the brightest part, like the cockpit light or whatever,
Right.
or things. And yeah, I was able to get all of that put together. And I find that a lot of aircraft modelers buy their bases and put their aircraft on bases, so I don't feel quite as bad that like I did the same thing, even if it's a moon. And then I had to put it on a table, and that goes on a wall. And so by accident, I was trying to figure out like what kind of a stand. I was going to buy like a stand, and I wound up at the most modeler store website that you could think of, doing Google image searches for these things, Pottery Barn. And
Right.
so I bought this thing that is a picture frame holder. It has two metal clasps to hold the top and bottom of the picture frame, which hold the component in the back, and it's perfectly hidden from view in the front. And it's so heavy because it's got to hold like your, ornate
Big
glass
Pete.
thing that the
Hmm.
Batwing doesn't matter. So it sits there on the table. Nobody's bumped it. It's never moved. Because that's the other thing that scared me is that I did all this and it's just going to go.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then I got it and it went to shows and here I am because like it's just everybody has really responded well to it. I think a lot of how I felt about it has come through in a way that like other people, you know, everybody's relationship to it is like I really like it, but they never are like I like it because you did this one thing. It's
Hmm.
like I don't know why I like it, but I
Yeah.
love it. And that always feels really good. Like if you can find something that like you love that you can, you know what I mean, that you have a relationship with, like those are the little moments. Like whenever you see a person in a diorama or you see something like that in a diorama, it forces your perspective in a specific way. Like going back
Hmm.
to figure modeling, a lot of figure modelers use something called box dioramas, which I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with, but it forces the perspective. It's in a box. There's a lot of like playing with forced perspective to like create something in a small box that has like a big thing. And my buddy Don Johnson, my mentor Don Johnson, he what he described this as is this is a deconstructed open box diorama because you can look at this from every direction you want, but you want to look at it from this direction. It like
Mm.
it forces you, invites you. When I have it at a show and it's on a low table, everyone instinctively comes down
Just
to it
crouches
because like
down to it. Yeah.
that I want to see the moon, like I want to see the shot. And um yeah, I love that that's how people have interfaced with it and like that's what I wanted out of it and that's what everyone else gets out of it.
Yeah. And that's what I get out of it too. And it's just I like what you said about how just all the different parts of the things that you did are almost imperceptible, right, to the regular viewer, but as a sum, it just gives you that
Yeah.
emotional impact. And I'm really happy that we talked about it, and because I fell in love with the pictures as soon as I saw them, however many months ago that was.
I secretly was like this, hoping that you were going to be at ODO because like we've talked about this a couple of times, but like everybody who's seen this in pictures, like there is something about seeing it in person that like people have like a real relationship with. Yeah, like I don't know. It's looked great in every show. It's done great. I sent you pictures of it like in the show and like the pictures I sent you of it at ODO are not my pictures.
Hmm.
Like that's what I love about it is that other people like there's one of like them looking in the cockpit at Batman like they want to find him. Like they want to see what's going on in there. And like that's huge to be able to and like it doesn't have to be the cockpit but like finding that spot where someone wants to has this instinct of like what's going on in there for both of the builds that I've done that have like been the most successful that is my guiding light of like I want you to look at it and leave it.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. It must feel really special because like we build and we find a lot of joy in that model when it's done, but to see it bring out joy in other people is like a whole nother,
yeah
a whole nother feeling of gratification, I'm sure.
It is a very weird feeling. It is, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
and
I can't describe it. It's such a like yeah, it just feels like that's all I've wanted, but like yes, that's the best way to put it. And it's been a hard way for me to like say that, like to
yeah, it's peak model building to
conceptualize it.
me, right? Is like, yeah, like just eliciting that emotion and seeing that emotion in someone else's eyes. It's like you're a chef and you just cook something amazing, and but you're not the only
Yeah.
person enjoying it. You get to see everyone else enjoy it too. And
Yeah.
um I again, I think it's such an amazing project, and you did such an amazing job with it, and it really is making me happy and a lot of other people happy. So yeah, you should be really proud.
Thank you. Thank
Um
you. Yeah.
all right. We're gonna jump into quick hitter questions. Are you ready?
I definitely not, man. Let's go.
Okay.
This is how I built the model. Like this is perfect. Like yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so what is the favorite kit, your all-time favorite kit that you've ever built?
Optimist so far. I did that in the PGU, and the PGU was fun. Like the original PGU, that was fun. Only in that like it was such an intimidating kit, and it felt intimidating until you put it together, and it was like very accessible.
Hmm.
And so like that was one where like you said, like I built it to enjoy every part of the process of building it.
So, how many kits do you have in your backlog, do you think?
So I knew this question was coming, and I counted. I think I'm at 41. My daughter has like Pokemon kits that I started buying for her as like a thing. So maybe one or two of those are like hers, and I just don't know it yet. So that's why the evasion. Yeah,
Okay. What's the breakdown like Gundams versus other subjects?
that's a great question. I have three Machine and Krieger kits. I have the Batman Begins Batmobile that I'll probably never build because I really don't like that kit from
Mm.
Bandai. I have a Star Wars kit that we'll talk about later. And then everything else is Gundam.
Okay. Okay. So mostly Gundam.
Yeah,
Mostly Gundam.
mostly Gundam. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Oh no, there's a Terminator kit over there. Two Terminator kits, and I have an Airwolf over there that I haven't touched.
Oh,
So
fun. Cool.
yeah, yeah.
Would you prefer a 1,000 piece kit or 10 kits that are 100 pieces each?
Okay. So I've heard you ask this question a lot of times, and I respect everybody's decision for the 10 100 piece kits, but I just built a 1,000 piece kit, and I wanted like that's what I want. Like one 1,000 piece kit, because one 1,000 piece kit can turn into 10 100 piece kits, and you can just enjoy every bit of it, and it takes up a lot less space when it's done. But like,
Right.
yeah, there's a lot you could do there, you know? And ultimately at the end of it, like it's not about showing the one kit, it's about playing. And so like some people want to like really customize. I am a very like I want to bring out as much of the kit that's there. Sometimes I'll add some extra stuff for the Batwing, but like if you have 1,000 piece kit and it's a really nice, well-fitting kit, Bandai kit, like that's my heart's there. Like that's what I want to do. And
Okay.
I apparently I'm in the minority, but like I know that's it.
No,
Yeah.
confident answer. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a grill kit?
PGU Falcon or PG Falcon, the
Hmm.
Millennium Falcon from Bandai.
Mm-hmm.
I have it. My
Yeah.
wife bought it for me. Uh, she bought it for me for my birthday 5 years ago. It finally arrived 2 years ago. I bought all the Archive X paints for that kit, and I do not have the Jones to start it. This is my like year of PG kits. So like this Optimus was basically a PG kit. I'm hoping I reserve every right to chicken out, but by the end of the year I want to start that Falcon and just get it done. But
That would be
like
awesome. People would
whatever
love to see it though.
cockpit,
Yeah, this would be a whole
cockpit,
project.
whatever. Yeah,
Hmm.
it'll be the end of me. That'll be my grail kit. Yeah. After that,
Awesome.
that's it. I'll sweep the floors. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Good. No, that's a great choice. If there were ever a grill kit, I mean, PG Falcon is
Yeah.
up there. If somebody made a Dwayne Ayer special edition color, what would you want that color to be?
Okay. I would want that to be the like flattest dark gray, like the dark, like you know what I mean? Like everyone has that like the base dark gray of their kit. That's it. It's such a hard one to get right. And like I'm saying it and everyone has a different dark gray in their head of what that is, but that's it. Like that perfect flat, like let's go dark gray with some metallic coming through, but like perfect dark gray.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Great answer. What do you do with your boxes when you're done building?
I have a bigger front log than back log. I don't do anything with them. What I want to do with them is put them up on the wall, and that allows me to not do anything with them. And I have a storage space and just take up like a wall of that.
Hmm.
I don't even have that much like display. It's just yeah, all
uh,
kinds of bits in them and stuff. I'm terrible.
what do you watch or listen to while you're building?
It's a lot of things. Podcasts. I listen to a lot of just a wide variety of podcasts. That I model more on listening to other people talk about modeling through podcasts than modeling. Uh, I'll listen to like something either like nostalgic or whatever, or depending on the day, it's like full crank Nine Inch Nails, like just the loudest, angriest, whatever from that. And I'm just screaming while I'm working. I work when the house is empty a lot, so I'll just go. It's my time to just like,
Hmm.
there's
Crank
nothing
up the
that's going to
volume.
get in the way of the kit. Like I'm not anxious about anything. I'm just like, oh, yeah,
Love it.
enjoying it. So.
Nice. Yeah. Last two questions. So, is there a builder that you think deserves way more attention that you think is way better than their follower count?
Um, if I'm gonna go like Gunpla Builder, it's One Punch Sam. She's like one of the first people that got me into like going to shows. She did a really good job of just like, hey, like I have social anxiety that like I'm really good at like not making it where I'm like this the whole time, but like internally it's a lot. And she did a really good job of just like keeping me in the space comfortably, checking in. Uh, Her builds are really, really good. She does a lot of like Zoids
Hmm.
and yeah, she should have 10 million followers. She's great.
That's awesome. And the question everyone's been waiting for: uh, who should? Is there anyone that you think I should have on the pod, and would you help me get them?
Yes. Uh, the hard part is that like every answer I want to give, I like worry that like they're already like it's the episode before or after mine, like they're already in the can because like everybody that like um, Burial a couple years ago, I'm like, oh, he's got to get him on those 5 star stories. Like I saw that ODO and boop, there he is. Um, Plamo Plagia, I
Hmm.
met at MMSI and like that guy top to bottom is one of the most inspirational, like just people. Like his builds are inspirational, and then everything like I quit. Like he's so good. Um, I hmm, I want to say Pencil Knights because he is one of the best LED guys on the market. But I feel like now that I've said that, like uh, like last week was Pencil Knights. I don't know.
No,
But
no.
Irwin or Pencil Knights is great. He's a wonderful human being, and uh, like I don't understand how he builds kits that small that are that loaded with like it's mostly just LED with stuff on top of it.
Right.
It's
That's like
it's
his
wild.
signature.
Yeah.
Coop said Pencil Knights too, and yeah, I think an LED episode where he talks through his process would be phenomenal. And I know he just built that.
Just to understand it.
Yeah, that G-Quux Red Gundam. Um, that was at
I
ODO.
saw
That
that at
looked
ODO
amazing.
and I like walked as he took it out and like, the each of the little guys is this big and every bit of it is lit and like, like I don't understand it. I really don't. It's so wild. And just to like understand if I could understand 8 seconds of his thought process to demystify that, like yeah, like you don't need to do another podcast after that. Like you've cracked the black magic of like whatever that is because he really cooks. He's so
Hmm.
good at that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Great choice, man. Well,
thanks.
yeah, Dwayne. I mean, it's been really awesome talking with you. I've had you penciled in on my list of people to talk to since the very beginning, and I'm glad we were able to make it happen. And yeah, just hearing your Batwing and all the work that and thought that you put into it, and just seeing it come to life is amazing. So I really appreciate you sharing your whole process and everything that went behind it.
No,
So
this has been great. I as soon as I started doing this, I'm like, oh, I really want to get on this. And you were pretty quick to be like, hey, you're coming. And I really appreciate that. But like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and to have one that is just on process, like this is great. So thank you for doing this. I can't wait to see what you do next. I'm happy to invite myself back on. If
yeah,
you ever want to sit down and go over anything else in the future, like
we'll
good
have
luck
to.
and get it.
We'll have to do it for sure. I had a blast recording with Dwayne. I hope you appreciated the thought process that went behind all the little decisions he made in the Batwing. Honestly, if you couldn't tell, I could have just sat back with a bag of popcorn and let him run the whole show. If you don't already, you should follow Dwayne at his Instagram handle, Dwayne Ayer Scale Models. The link is in the episode description. What about you? Have you built a kit from a live action film or something from real life? If you have, what were the challenges? If you haven't, what would you want to build? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Newtype Notebook, and happy building.
Newtype Notebook has an official sponsor, and that's Splash Paints. Splash makes up 80 or 90% of my paint collection. It's great, ready to spray airbrush lacquer paints made in Oregon. Super smooth, great coverage, super durable. They have everything you could need to bring your model to the next level. Primers, mecha colors, including the classic Evangelion colors, military colors, metallics, not to mention hundreds of car colors. I personally love using the military colors in my mecha builds just to give them a real-world sensibility. The Candy Red and 2K Clear were my secret weapons for my RE100 Nightingale. And I won't use any other paint brands for my 124 scale car kits. You can order Splash Paints direct from splash-paints.com. Splash will be giving away paints to a lucky Newtype Notebook listener for every episode of this season. Keep an eye on the Undergated Network Instagram for more details.